Hello, it's Cade with a quick word before today's show. This episode marks 2 years of Recross the Paths. Whether this is your first episode or you've been listening since the very beginning, I'm grateful to you for sharing the time with me. If you enjoy the program, would you consider leaving a review or a rating wherever you listen? My hope is that these conversations find their way to more folks so that they will also be inspired and encouraged in their own cube journey. You're always also welcome to send feedback to recrossthepaths@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you for taking the time to listen. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Recross the Paths, where we celebrate the cube community one conversation at a time. My name is Cade, and today I'm here with somebody who has never played a cube. I'm here with Nick Floyd. Nick, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be joining you.
You know, I have to laugh at this at the front end that as many of these conversations revolve around cube is something that you've never actually done, right?
That's right. I love limited magic. That was what I grew up on playing in the 90s. I played sealed deck and to a lesser extent booster draft and just never had a chance to play a cube.
And somehow that's not held you back. You are I would suggest, a prolific designer, most famously of the Forgetful Fish format, as well as a number of other variants like rock, paper, scissors, and trippin', and a couple other things that I hope we get to at least dive into a little bit. But I'm so glad that you're here to get to talk about design.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
So I usually like to ask, as we set the stage here, why cube? But since that's not as appropriate here, Nick, why game design?
Well, I grew up when I was young, during family holidays and things. We always played like party games from the 80s and 90s, Pictionary and Scattergories and those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
And that led to me getting involved with friends to play Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing. And that eventually Magic came out. I was excited to try it and finally did. And yeah, it is clearly my favorite game of all time.
So you said, like, coming out of D&D or other family games, is this like actually the intended use where you're just playing Magic between other things, or was it kind of its own standalone thing at first?
Well, I was really competitive in my early days of Magic. I mean, as competitive as I could be. I grew up in Wyoming, so the least populated state. So trying to play competitive Magic in the tiny little towns is not real easy, but we traveled to Magic tournaments in Salt Lake City and Denver. I went into nationals one year, and I tried to be competitive, but I also took it as a game. I played competitively, but also at the same time, I played for fun.
And you started pretty close to the beginning, right?
That's right. About a year after Magic came out, my friends and I saw that it had been released and getting a whole bunch of buzz in the gaming community, and we didn't grab it right away, but about a year after the alpha release, we finally got our revised starter and started playing.
Yeah, kind of the unexpected buzz there. That, like, you couldn't get a hold of product is how I hear it early on anyway.
Yeah. I mean, of course I was in Wyoming, but I never saw alpha or beta or unlimited cards until I played for a year or more.
Amazing. Well, so then early on, you're playing some of the competitive things, putting together constructed things. Were you already playing around with designing your own formats at that stage?
Well, I did hear, reading, the Duelist magazine and Inquest magazine and those kind of things about people making. I remember I think he was the first national champion, Zach Dolan. He created a testing deck out of, a whole bunch of plague rats. And it was, trying to, the plague rats get bigger for each one that's in play. And so it would test the deck. You'd play it against a deck you were trying to run for standard, or what we called Type 2 at the time. And if you were able to overcome the increasing plague rat horde, that means your deck was good enough maybe for competitive play. So that was the first time I really heard about a variant of Magic, really weird decks and stuff, where you play as many of a card as you want or whatever. From there, I was like, well, we can do anything with this game. So from there, I created Forgetful Fish and my other variants, and I continue to make weird Magic.
I love it. So then with that sensibility of trying new things, were you ever building in other games, or was Magic the primary language for that?
Well, the core concept behind Magic, the core rules of Magic, lends to a great variety of things you can do with it. But like I said, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's a game that's very creative, and you can do just about anything you want with it. You can tweak the rules how you want. So that was always always something I was interested in. And I seem like I can't help messing with games. I find a new game that I like, and I'll play it, and I'll be like, what if we do this? So.
So already starting by angling toward breaking the rules when you try
Right.
new things. That's good. Well, I don't want to overlap too much with some of the other media that have explored some of what you've done with Forgetful Fish, but I do love kind of the origin of how you describe Forgetful Fish on your write-up about it. You have a document with all the rules detailed. Would you be willing to speak to some of how Forgetful Fish specifically came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought it was a funeral I was going to, and so I left my magic cards at home because I don't take my games to a funeral. But
Right,
it
right.
couldn't have been, because that funeral that I thought was that time took place before Homelands came out. And Homelands is the first set that had memory lapse. Whenever it was, I didn't have enough cards to build 2 decks. I wanted to teach my cousin to play Magic. And so I just had a bunch of random packs, Homelands and Chronicles and other packs, and a 4th edition starter. So I didn't have enough lands, so I just shuffled them all together. And I'm like, we can just play out of the same deck. That'll work. You usually have 2 decks, but, this will work. But then I cast Memory Lapse on one of his spells, and it was like, wait a minute, that's going on top of the deck that we're now sharing, and I'm going to draw that. And I was like, okay, at that point, I'm like, I got to build a deck around that. I got to build a deck that we play out of the same deck, so that uses Memory Lapse, and it'll be a weird way. So.
That's so good. So like literally the flash of inspiration of like, oh, this is a cool play pattern. I want more of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And from there, I started gathering cards for it. Like, oh, this card plays at the top of the library. Got to have Brainstorm in there, and got to have Portent and at the time, and all these other spells that deal with the top of the library. And from there, it grew. Dandân. I chose Dandân because it was a 4/1 for 2 mana, and so it was cheap. And because we were both playing out of the same deck, we're both going to have islands. That's pretty much guaranteed. So it was like, might as well use this perfect creature for it.
And it sounds like that was at least somebody attempting to break that system, like to try to not play islands ever, so that your opponent couldn't get through.
Right, and there is a strategy, and I never thought that would really work, but evidently it does work with certain lists. It works if your opponent doesn't know about it, doesn't know that's what you're doing. It doesn't know how to play the end game with it. But I've never lost a game to that, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's real viable.
Well, I mean, leave it to Magic players to try to optimize any sort of thing like this, right?
Right.
So when you're designing some of these formats, and we'll dive more in here, but do you find that your ideas are coming primarily from those flashes of inspiration like that, or is it more of like an iterative process of building on an idea?
Well, it's always inspiration up front. I'd be like, oh, this creature's really cool. I bet what if we do this with it and change this rule so that this works a little bit differently? And then from there, it'll be iteration. It'll be like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. Let's try these cards instead. Maybe this will change it and make it work. So yeah, it's inspiration in the beginning and then iteration until it gets right.
So as you noted, Memory Lapse, kind of the origins of Dandân are back in, what would that be, 1994, 95?
Well, 96 was the origin of Dandân, but Magic first release was 93, and I started in 94.
So then Sam of Ristic Studies did this really wonderful video here just a couple of years ago that was pointing people to this format. And then it's really exploded in popularity since then and kind of become a tabletop staple of something that people have on hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think it is about this format specifically that seems to have resonated for people?
Well, it's really easy to play. Like a board game, you can just carry it with you. It's an 80-card deck, and you're like, hey, we don't need 2 decks. We only need this one. Let's play this mirror match using this one deck. And I think that makes it special and makes it easy and accessible for players, and that's one of the reasons it has taken off.
Well, and you noted with the shared library and shared graveyard, initially that was kind of out of necessity, right? When you're teaching your cousin there, like, that's just what you have.
Right.
Is that something that you've stuck with because of that in future designs?
Well, when I released Forgetful Fish online in 2016, I wanted to release 2 others with it. I already had 2 other variants. One was Rock, Paper, Scissors, which you mentioned. But the only other one I had at the time was a shared graveyard but separate libraries game. And it wasn't up to speed. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. So I tried to come up with another one. And that's when I came up with Trippin'. And so those are the 3 I released online. Now, Trippin is a shared library, but it's not necessary to be a shared library. It could be 2 separate decks. It's just a shared library for ease of travel, and so you can bring just one deck with you and play. But it doesn't have to do with the top of the library like Forgetful Fish does. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have 3 very different variants. I didn't want to have just 3 shared library variants. Of course, Rock, Paper, Scissors is a 3 library game where each player has a deck based on Rock Lobster, Paper Tiger, and Scissor Lizard. They're actually, all the decks are identical except that. They each have the different creature. And that's the one I already had. I made that one in probably 98 after Unglued came out and the Rock, Paper, Scissors creatures. So I wanted to have 3 very different variants to put online. I already had 2 that were very different, so I needed one more that was different, and I created Trippin. To be honest, I don't like Trippin. It's fine, it's good, and I know some players do like it, but it's not my style. It's like, you're not supposed to be reserved. You're supposed to just play everything you can, because every spell you play draws you another card.
Trippin, short for cantrippin, right?
Right, correct. They're all cantrips, yep. I've never really enjoyed it, but I understand it's a good game. It's just not my style of Magic, I guess.
Yeah, I saw you write in a message somewhere that game, perhaps of any of that you've designed, feels the least like Magic to you.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do you endeavor for a lot of your designs to feel like Magic, or is that just kind of a product of things?
Yeah, I want them to feel like Magic, because Magic's such a great game, and, but sometimes, they're not going to, and Trippin doesn't, but it's still fun.
Well, Rock, Paper, Scissors, you mentioned, was the format that I got to sit down and play with you when we connected briefly at Shoebox. As you noted, this one's very different from a lot of other pickup formats like that because it is 3 decks and really requires 3 players to shine.
Correct.
Would you speak a little bit to what Rock, Paper, Scissors does best?
Okay, so it's a 3-player variant, and like I mentioned, each deck is the same, but one has Rock Lobsters, one has Paper Tigers, and one has Scissor Lizards. Rock Lobster says Scissor Lizards can't attack or block. So when a Rock Lobster is in play, Scissor Lizards can't attack or block. So Scissors really wants to kill you because you're playing Rock, and you really want to kill a Paper player. So it creates this weird dynamic where you're attacking the player you want that locks down your creatures, and the player that's locked down by your creatures wants to kill you. But you kind of want to protect a little bit. You want to protect that guy that's trying to kill you, because if they die, there's very little for the other player to just wipe you out, because his creatures lock down that player's creatures. So you kind of have this weird dynamic where you got to protect one person that's trying to kill you and try to kill the other person at the same time. So it creates a real interesting dynamic. And when I created it originally, that was, when I first played it, it was like, oh, well, this is interesting. I got to build toward that. And then I know you played it at Shoebox. There's no land in the deck. And that was a design choice, because when I first built it, there was land in the deck. But if somebody stumbled or flooded on land, they just got wiped out by the player that really wants to kill them.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a non-game. It was like, well, we might as well start over. And then so we're just trying to find one instance of the game that we're playing where everybody's got good land. And it just was like, well, what if we just cut all land out of it and just can play whatever spell you want? Like you have Omniscience, you can just play whatever spell you want based on timing rules and without mana.
Yeah, and it's like a mercy of design there that all 3 of those cards have the same cost, the same power toughness, that, other than that line of text that impacts a different player differently, they all do play the same. So the decks will look similar outside of that particular hitch.
Right. And there's a wide variety of cards in the decks. And there's one copy of 3 different creatures in each deck other than the Rock, Paper, Scissors creatures. So there is a little space to get around that, but there's only 3 creatures in each that can do that.
But in that same spirit, also 4 power in all those, right?
Yes,
it's like you're still tracking life the same way.
Yes, very much like Forgetful Fish. 5 hits and you're dead. There is a little bit of life gain, but it's always gain in increments of 4 as well. So you're either losing or gaining life in an increment of 4. So it makes tracking life very easy.
And that does seem, like you said, to be kind of a theme throughout a lot of your designs, that many of them are parsable at smaller numbers. Like you don't need to track 20 on really any of the variants you've put out so far.
Yeah, that's correct. I do have one that's you can lose life in increments of 2 or 4. Red Hot Seasoned Fish is what I call it. And it's based on red herring, which is a 2/2 fish. It's a red 2/2 that has haste and has to attack every turn, and it's a clue. You can pay 2 mana and sacrifice it to draw a card.
So is that something that you target in the designs, or is that kind of to take from Bob Ross, is that just a happy accident of sensibility over time?
Well, in my experience, variant game design is a lot of happy accidents, but yeah, you just kind of just stumble onto things and you're like, oh, this will be perfect.
Well, with rock, paper, scissors specifically, you have the omniscience rule, but you also have, I think it's the scissors mode is the harder mode where you can actually play with lands, right?
So yeah, when I released it, like I said, the original was there were planes in the deck, and if somebody stumbled on lands or flooded, it was an on-game. So I took them all out, and so we just played with no lands. Then when I released it online in 2016, when I released Forgetful Fish and Trippin' at the same time, I decided, to be a complete game, there should be a mode for rock, a mode for paper, and a mode for scissors. And they all kind of have a pun. For scissors, you cut mana out completely. That's the default mode, and the mode I played for years. But then I created a rock mode where you play cards face down as lands. And once you play it, it's land for the rest of the game. You can't look at it. You can't look and see, what card did I put down as a land? You just got to go.
It's gone now.
Yeah. And then the paper mode is the same, but then you can tap any of those lands you played to return it to your hand. And it doesn't use the stack. You just pick it up, put it back. You can't tap it for mana and tap it to put it back in your hand, but you can tap it and use mana from the other ones to put it back in your hand. And so that's kind of where paper goes back and forth. So that's kind of the pun. Cards are paper. Scissors cut out mana completely, and rock is it's a hard mode. It is what it is. You play it as a land, and that's it. It's rock.
That's so good. What I love the sensibility too, Nick, of you're releasing a variant already, but even within that, you have further rules changes that people can opt into if they want to do something even further different from what you've already picked up.
Yeah, each one of my variants, I usually come up with probably 5 or 6 different modes that you can choose to play with. You could be like, oh, what if we play with this optional rule instead, and then change it up. That's kind of the point of those, is to just, hey, what if we do this and make this change to the rules this time? We've got even more variety in what games you can play with the deck.
So something like Forgetful Fish or these other variants that you've put together, you've had a lot of these together for a long time. And I mean, by my math, that's well over a decade between inception and publishing online, like sharing it. Can you talk about the refinement process of going from an idea that you enjoy to something that you're excited to then share with others?
Sure, yeah. Like I said, Forgetful Fish and Rock, Paper, Scissors I made in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s. But Trippin' I didn't make until 2016 when I was looking for one more to put out there with them.
Just got to fill out the quiver there, yeah.
Right. And the other ones I've made in the past couple of years, since I found out Forgetful Fish went viral, I spend probably 6 months or so kind of refining those. And I don't get a chance to play a whole lot. I don't have like a play test group that I do, but we only meet once a month. So yeah, it takes some time for any new variants. But I do want to say, Forgetful Fish has inspired a whole bunch of people to create other variants. Some of them are very good, and I encourage everybody to go out there and find other variants. They're mostly shared library because that's what Forgetful Fish was, and that's kind of what started it. But there are other variants out there that other players have created that are good, and I encourage people to try them and make them their own, like they have with Dandân.
Yeah, what do you think it takes for something like this to feel like it's ready to share? Or is it just like, hey, I like this, I'm just going to show it where it is?
I have a couple right now that I'm working on that I'm not ready to release, that I don't think is good enough, that it's like, yeah, I could throw this out there, but it's not ready yet. It doesn't feel right. I don't want players to be like, I know this is done by the same guy that did Dandân, but it's not good. So I spend some time.
I want to comment also on, you have just these really delightful presentations. You put together they're like half sheet cards that describe the format and kind of walk through all the basics of rules. Basically everything but the deck list you have just right there on a card to read. Was that something that you'd been working on since 2016 when you shared it, or is this kind of a newer development?
That is a newer development. In fact, I think Shoebox is because of Shoebox and because I knew I was going to be there showcasing different variants. I was like, I want people to just be able to pick them up, read this card, read the very basics of how to change the rules of Magic, and be able to jump into a game with somebody else that has never played it also. And so I created those. I call them like quick start cards, and they seem to work well. So
I just think it's something really thoughtful about, as complicated and as nuanced as things can be, having something written out. I mean, really, just like the rule book of any other game you would pick up off the shelf, it seems incredibly useful.
Yeah, and because they're all based on Magic, I just need to explain the changes.
You said it there, but I want to underline kind of the desire for other people to take these ideas and run with them. Like, do you feel like Forgetful Fish or Dandân, is it kind of your thing, or do you want that to kind of go out into the community broadly?
You know, I'm fine. I'm happy with people making it their own and doing variations, like iterating on a cube. You know, people might take a cube idea and change it up, change some cards, make it a little bit different, make it their own. And I'm fine with that for Dandân. Maybe I was good when I first discovered that it was out there and people were playing it. There were some articles online and some videos online and stuff that didn't mention me. And I was like, don't forget that I created it. You know, I kind of wanted recognition for it, or at least I wanted feedback for it. And that's kind of my initial release of it. I put it out there and was like, hey, let me know what you think of these. I want people to play it. I want to know they're playing it. They don't have to acknowledge me. So people asked me to sign Dandans. And I originally decided, okay, what am I going to sign Dandans? I'll sign my name. And then I was like, okay, on Dandans, I'm going to put don't forget. And that was a reference to Memory Lapse. That was a reference to Memory Lapse. But then I thought, maybe subconsciously I meant don't forget me. You know, don't forget that I created it. And then when I signed Memory Lapses, I signed Memory Lapses Go Fish. There's a reference to Dandân.
It kind of points toward each other that way.
Right. That was my original reason for writing those. Then I thought, am I subconsciously like saying, don't forget about me, you know?
I imagine it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way when something you've created becomes so big that like now it is part of an official product that Wizards of the Coast has put out. And like you said, people are already making their own variants of it.
Yeah. And Wizards was great. They didn't initially contact me when they designed the secret layer, but they contacted me since, and they've acknowledged me, and I appreciate that. I have a secret layer. They sent me one, so I have one. So I wasn't shut out when they went to be sold on the secret layer website, and they were gone in a half hour. At least I got one.
In the Pipe Dream world, if you had another one of the variants that was presented that way, which one would you pick?
Rock, paper, scissors for sure.
Need to get some fancy art for the scissors lizards.
Yeah, it's my best one. I mean, Red Hot Seasoned Fish is good. I have Forget the Fish is by Dandân-less Dandân deck. It's only about decking. You don't keep track of life at all. And that one's pretty good too. But Rock, Paper, Scissors, one of the originals, is one of my favorites. And, you know, it should appeal to Commander players because it's multiplayer. And it was like, why hasn't it taken off like Dandân? And then right after Shoebox, I'm like, you know what? What if on my Google Doc for Rock, Paper, Scissors, I just make printable proxies that you can just print out the pages, cut them up, and have the entire deck. Because that was the problem. Like, with Forgetful Fish, you only need one player needs to build one 80-card deck, and two players can play it. But with Rock, Paper, Scissors, you have to build 3 decks that are each 40 cards. So it's 120 cards, and there are no lands. So that's a steep hurdle to, like, I'm going to try this. So I was like, okay, what if I just get the proxies and just put them on my Google Doc and just let people have it and see how it goes. So we'll see if that works. But
yeah, here's as many steps as we can take out for people.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and so many of these cards are older cards too, right? Like Unglued, I think, was the Rock, Paper, Scissors cards originally.
That's right.
You know, like some of those that are a little tougher to pin down if you're hunting in paper too.
I do believe they were reprinted in one of the other onsets.
Unsanctioned, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're kind of hard to come by a little bit, and especially, I guess, in certain parts of the world, paper tigers are really popular.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, Nick, one of the things that Sam in his video suggested when he was talking about Forgetful Fish, he compared the design of Forgetful Fish to a cube. He suggested, quote, "Forgetful Fish is malleable Much like tinkering with a cube, the decisions made by its designer reflect the intended game experience for its players. How did that resonate for you as somebody who hasn't engaged much in that space?
Yeah, I mean, Magic variant design in general is kind of like a cube. You can curate it to your own liking or to your play group's liking, your friend's liking. You just kind of tinker with it till it's right.
Have your experiences with variant formats like this caused any interest in cube, or is the game just different enough now?
No, I'm very interested in cube. It's kind of weird that I have not been able to play one. I run a monthly meetup group when we play variants, and nobody has brought a cube to say, like, hey, let's play. You have that hurdle of getting enough players, having usually 8 players, or you yourself and 7 friends. So there's that kind of hurdle to get a cube draft going. But it's something I'm interested in. I would love to play a cube. Actually, I wanted to build a cube. My cube idea back in the day, my favorite limited format was Mirage Visions and Weather.
Yeah.
And I wanted to build a Mirage Block cube, and I never did it. And I had boxes of commons, and I probably could have got most of it from that, but I didn't. I never did it, and I kind of wish I had. I wish I could just get a set of each, and then be like, yeah, here's my start of my Mirage Block cube.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that's something I noted coming up with a lot of your variants too, was singleton breaks. Something that's pretty big in cubes often is this focus on singleton and kind of creating novel experiences that way. But you don't seem particularly beholden to not breaking singleton.
Right, and Forgetful Fish, I picked 2-ofs when I first designing Forgetful Fish. Most of the cards are 2-ofs, besides Dandân, Memory Lapse, and Accumulated Knowledge. And Accumulated Knowledge was a later edition at 4 copies because it needs more copies to even work.
Yeah.
You need more than just draw a card for 2 mana. Anyway, I picked 2-ofs because I figured it's a shared library. 2 players are going to be playing it. It's fair to have 2 copies of each card. If I draw one, maybe you'll draw the other. And so I picked 2-ofs. And most of my variants, I stick with that. I stick with the 2-of because if 2 players are playing it. But like Rock, Paper, Scissors, each deck has a single copy of every card except Rock, Lobster, Paper, Tiger, and Scissor, Lizard. That's just for variety. So there's a bunch of different cards. Some of them do kind of similar things, but they're all a little bit different. I want to make your mind be like, oh, I could use this card like this, or I could use it like that, but it's just one copy. If I use it that way, I can't use it again, and I'll never draw another one this game.
Do you think that those same sensibilities would carry over if you were to look into more cube design stuff, even in a larger environment?
Yeah, probably. That's definitely have some thought as to whether do I want just a singleton copy, and most cubes, I believe, are singleton, or do I want to, increase and have 2 copies of this? Maybe that changes the game a little bit. So yeah, I definitely think that's a consideration.
So Nick, what's next for you in your design journey? I know you have many other games cooking in the works. I know you mentioned before we started recording, like just recently having started watching a cube draft video or 2. What do you have on the horizon?
Like I said, I'm always working on a couple variants, and I meet up with my variant meetup group here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. If any listeners are out there, I'm not that hard to find online. At least I hope not. I'm always changing and starting other variants. And the friends I meet up with here, some of them always have variants in the works, and we're always trying to do something different. I should mention, so I have 2 decks we've talked about, Forgetful Fish and Red Hot Seasoned Fish, and they're both based on a fish creature in Magic. And total disclosure, I'm still using Red Herring in a variant from a friend who comes to my group. He actually quit Magic, and I was like, well, he's not building Red Herring anymore, so he quit, and then I was like, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back. So he gave me his deck, and I didn't take it apart, and I gave it back to him when he came back to Magic. But
so you're right, he did come back.
Yeah. So anyway, I have a red deck that's shared library, Red Hot Seasoned Fish, and I have Forgetful Fish. And a friend of mine online on Discord, he's from Australia. He's a Dandân player in Australia and really interested in variants. And his name's Dean, great guy. We like emailed back and forth all last summer, back and forth. Finally, I'm like, join my Discord, and he did. He was like our first non-local to my Discord for my playgroup. Shortly after that, he suggested maybe you could do a two-headed giant thing with this. And I was looking for a way to combine a Forgetful Fish and Red Hot Seasoned Fish. And I just shuffled them all together once and tried to play out of that. That did not work at all. Don't try that.
Don't mix your fish.
No. But the two-headed fish works great. It's fun. Dean, he had an idea. He's like, what if you play two-headed giant, but the two opponents sitting across from each other play out of the blue deck, and the two others sitting across from each other play out of the red deck. So it's a two-headed giant thing with both the red fish deck and the blue fish deck. So we call it red fish, blue fish, and it's really fun. I wouldn't say it's like the most strategic or like, oh, we're going to challenge ourselves, and whatever team wins this game, they are the best Magic players ever. It's more kind of just a fun thing, but man, it's fun. It's a good time.
I mean, two-headed giant, one of the best ways to play, I think, and it's so infrequent. So any opportunities you have, especially something like this where it highlights a very different axis to play.
Yeah, and that's actually when I went to Wizards in February. I met with 3 other players. They put me in a conference room, and 3 other players came in, and they're like, what do you got for 4 players? I'm like, well, you guys can play rock, paper, scissors, and I'll watch. And they're like, no, don't you have anything for 4? I'm like, well, a friend of mine online suggested this two-headed giant thing. We could try that. And we didn't finish the game because they had to go draft. Like, that's their job, to go draft Magic.
Oh, darn. I have to go. Yeah. I have to go work, huh?
But the one guy said, I usually don't like two-headed giant, but this is fun. This was fun. And then as they were leaving the room, I could tell they were talking about our game. So it worked. They liked it. I planted some seeds while I was there. Maybe they'll do another variant sometime, but who knows? Here's
hoping.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe in the spirit of, like you said, don't forget you, certainly. I think your friend you noted that put together like the Red Hot Seasoned Fish, that's Miguel?
That's right, yeah. Miguel originally designed a shared library he called Hot Sushi, and it's kind of a artifact, mono red an artifact control, board control thing, and it was good. It's fun, but I was like, you know what? I want to take red herring and do something different with it. And then I looked at red herring, and I'm like, okay, every time you kill it, if your opponent has 2 mana, he's going to sacrifice it to draw a card. And I'm like, what if I use split-second cards so you can't? The split-second. And so that's what Red Hot Seasoned Fish is based on. It's got 6 copies of Word of Seizing, which is a threatened spell. Costs 5, but it's a threat and gain control of target creature till end of turn. So you gain control of it, and then if you got 2 extra mana, you sacrifice it. So you get to draw a card off your stolen creature that you just killed.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, as you're thinking through the work in variant spaces and like how you're engaging with the game, what advice would you want to share with other designers as they're considering their own projects?
Yeah, well, if you get an idea, look for Magic cards that work with that idea, throw them together, give them a shot. And it might not work. And if it doesn't work, you can either tweak it to where it does work, or you can just scrap the idea and try something else, because sometimes they don't work.
Do you have a card in the back of your mind that you would like to get to make work that you haven't found a solution for yet?
I'm working on a couple variants that aren't quite there yet. One of those I'm working on is a shared library game that uses the Dandân in the deck are 6 copies of Dualcaster Mage and 6 copies of Snapcaster Mage. And so they're kind of 2 sides of the same coin. And it's like, it's a spell slinger, and you share the graveyard, so, you're like, oh, I'm going to flashback this, and priority is really important, and it's kind of clunky right now. I'm still working on it, but I always have a couple on the back burner that I'm tweaking.
I love it.
This is kind of an interesting story I went to. So right after the Ristic Studies video dropped, a month later was MagicCon Minneapolis. And so I contacted Sam online from Ristic Studies and said, do you know any Forgetful Fish fans that are going to be at MagicCon Minneapolis? It's like, yeah, we're all going to be there. Like, awesome.
Yes, me. Come on.
Yeah. So Sam, I got to meet Sam and Braden and Cal, Cal was at Shoebox, who were all in Sam's video. I got to meet them, and they were some of the first players to sign my Dandân playmat that I had players sign who liked Dandân.
That's so good. Well, and how exciting. I know I was rewatching the video as I was preparing for this and thinking through it, and how unfortunate, of course, that the email link was bad by the time he reached out. But I'm so thrilled that you guys got to connect. Like, I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, that email address that I had originally put on there, I created it just for that. And I was like, I don't want to get spam on my regular email, so I'll just create a new one. And then nobody was responding. I had no responses, so I quit looking at it. And then I finally got a response when Sam tried to email me, and I bounced back because it shut down. I was not looking at that email. It was dead. So.
That's a hard thing to conceptualize, where it's like people have really resonated with Forgetful Fish here. And it's so hard to go, like, you should have just trusted me. Like, you could have been playing this and enjoying this for years at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, how do you conceptualize that? How do you even think about that? I don't know that you can.
Yeah, I put it out there, and there was hardly anybody who knew about it. People I had played with at different game stores and stuff, and be like, hey, I have this variant magic thing that you might like. And since then, I've seen in comments and like on Sam's video, I saw a guy, he's like, I knew a guy, he's like, I met a guy in Florida when I lived there 10 years ago that had a Dandân, had this shared library deck, and I'm like, that was me.
I do exist. I'm out there.
Yeah, no, I've been all around. I played my original Dandân deck in Wyoming, where I grew up, in Illinois, where we lived in 2016, in Florida, where I lived for a while. So I played it here and there all over the place, and it never went viral from that. It was finally when I released it online. I plastered it all over the place in 2016. I put it on every deck builder site I could find. I was like, Forgetful Fish. You can still find some of those. But I had my Google Docs, plus I plastered it everywhere.
Well, the hope is that people will see something like Forgetful Fish, enjoy it, and then try some of these other things too. Because they're like, even the limited exposure I had to rock, paper, scissors was so novel and so fun in a different way from other things I had played that I'm ready to try anything you put in front of me, Nick.
Yeah, well, there's not just me. I always want to say that. Like, Dandân has inspired others to create really cool variants. So, try mine, but try other people's too.
I love it. That's a good word. Well, Nick, this has been a pleasure to explore so much of this together. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you one of my favorite questions, which is, if you could have any card printed as a promo, what card would you pick and who would you have do the illustration?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Now, so Dandân is my signature card, and I like the old school artwork. I like the new Dandân. It's beautiful, by Kellogg's Loop. It's beautiful, but it doesn't. I don't know. I like the old artwork. I like the fish rising from the deep from Drew Tucker. That's my favorite. I also love the old school memory lapses, but I also really would like to see rock, paper, scissors take off, so maybe one of the rock, paper, scissors creatures.
Well, shout outs to Drew Tucker, certainly one of my favorite artists, and there's something really delightfully spooky about that original Dandân, isn't there?
Yeah. Drew's great. He contacted me on Facebook and thanked me for creating Dandân. He sent me a set of his tokens, his Dandân tokens, and a handwritten note of thanks and stuff. It's one of my favorite Magic pieces of memorabilia that I'll always keep.
That's so amazing. Well, Nick, again, thank you so much for being willing to spend the time chatting about this and sharing so much about what you're putting together. If folks want to follow up with you, if they want to, and they should, try out all these other formats that you're working on, where would be the best place for us to point them?
I can give you links. I have a Google Doc. I've used Google Docs from the beginning since 2016. Yeah. I have one that has like a list of links to all my variants and also my friends' variants from my play group here in Minnesota. I also have a Discord that isn't just local. I mostly created it for my local group to kind of organize ourselves and discuss our variants. But like I said, I've got a buddy in Australia who's part of it, and so we would accept anybody who wants to come on and talk about variants and pose questions and suggest cards. And yeah,
I'll have those all linked in the show notes here.
Sounds good.
Well, again, Nick, this has been delightful. I so appreciate your designs and how they've inspired and encouraged me in my own design journey, and just excited for where it's all going next. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
It's so rare to even have a passing impact on a game like this. And the fact that something you've put together is now like functionally immortalized in how the game exists.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very proud and happy that this game that I love, I put my stamp on it, and it won't go away. As long as Magic exists, there'll be players playing Forgetful Fish.